Heracles was the son of Zeus, the king of the gods, and a mortal woman named Alcmene. Zeus had disguised himself as Alcmene's husband, Amphitryon, to be with her. After the affair, Alcmene gave birth to Heracles, but she was afraid that Hera, Zeus's wife, would become jealous. To protect her son, Alcmene left him outside. Zeus took the baby to Hera. Not knowing the child was Zeus's son, Hera felt pity for the infant and nursed him. However, Heracles sucked so strongly that it caused Hera pain, and when she pushed him away, her milk sprayed across the sky, creating the Milky Way. Thanks to the divine milk, Heracles gained incredible strength. Afterward, Zeus brought Heracles back to his mother, and he grew up with his parents. His original name was Alcides, but later, to try and calm Hera's anger, he was called Heracles, meaning Hera's glory. When Heracles and his mortal twin brother, Iphicles, were just 8 months old, Hera sent 2 giant snakes to attack them. Iphicles cried in fear, but Heracles grabbed one snake in each hand and strangled them as if they were toys. His nurse found him playing with the dead snakes. Amazed, Amphitryon called for the seer Tiresias, who predicted that Heracles would grow up to defeat many monsters. Later in life, Heracles married Megara, the eldest daughter of King Creon of Thebes. Hera's jealousy never faded. She waited for the right moment to strike. Hera cast a spell of madness over him. In his confusion, he killed Megara and their children, that he could hardly remember but would regret for the rest of his life. Filled with sorrow and guilt, Hercules sought a way to atone for his actions. He visited the Oracle of Delphi. She told him that to purify his soul, he must serve King Eurystheus and complete 12 nearly impossible tasks, known as the 12 labors. Determined to make things right, Hercules accepted this challenge, not knowing the hardships he would face. For his first task, Hercules was sent to the hills of Nemea to slay a monstrous lion that was terrorizing the land. This was no ordinary lion, its golden fur was so tough that no weapon could pierce it, and its claws were sharper than any sword. As Hercules approached the lion's territory, he could hear its powerful roars echoing through the valleys. The villagers warned him, saying, "No one has ever faced the Nemean lion and lived to tell the tale." But Hercules was not afraid. He ventured into the dark forest where the lion lived, armed with his bow and a quiver full of arrows. Spotting the lion resting on a rock, he took aim and fired an arrow straight at its heart. To his surprise, the arrow bounced off the lion's hide as if it were made of steel. He tried again and again, but each arrow failed to harm the beast. Realizing that his weapons were useless, Hercules decided to face the lion with his bare hands. He tracked it to a cave with 2 entrances. Cleverly, he blocked one entrance with large boulders, ensuring the lion couldn't escape. Entering the cave through the other opening, Hercules found himself in complete darkness. Suddenly, the lion attacked, its eyes glowing in the dark. A fierce struggle ensued. The lion clawed and bit, but Hercules' strength was unmatched. He managed to get a grip around the lion's neck, wrestling it with all his might. After a grueling battle, he choked the lion until it was lifeless. Exhausted but triumphant, Hercules emerged from the cave. He tried to skin the lion as a trophy but found that even in death, its fur resisted his knife. Then he had an idea. Using the lion's own sharp claws, he was able to cut through the hide. He fashioned the impenetrable skin into a cloak and wore the lion's head as a helmet. This new armor would protect him in the challenges to come. For his second task, Hercules faced the Lernaean Hydra, a fearsome water serpent with 9 heads. The Hydra lived in the swamps near the town of Lerna and terrorized the countryside, destroying crops and livestock with its poisonous breath. As Hercules approached the murky swamp, he noticed the air was thick with a toxic mist. Covering his mouth and nose with a cloth, he ventured into the Hydra's lair. Suddenly, the monstrous creature emerged from the water, hissing loudly. Its 9 heads writhed like snakes, each one snapping its deadly jaws. Hercules attacked, swinging his mighty club and chopping off one of the Hydra's heads. But to his dismay, 2 new heads grew back in its place. Each time he cut off a head, more would appear, making the creature even more dangerous. Realizing he needed help, Hercules called out to his nephew Iolaus, who was nearby. Together, they came up with a plan. As Hercules cut off each head, Iolaus used a burning torch to cauterize the wound, sealing it so that no new heads could grow. They worked as a team, battling the Hydra amidst the swamp's treacherous footing. Finally, only the immortal head remained, the one that could not be killed. Hercules lifted his club and smashed it with all his strength, then buried the immortal head under a massive rock, trapping it forever. Victorious, Hercules dipped his arrows in the Hydra's poisonous blood, making them deadly weapons for future challenges. He and Iolaus returned, having defeated a creature that seemed unbeatable. The third task was different from the others. Hercules was instructed to capture the Ceryneian hind, a beautiful and swift deer with golden antlers and bronze hooves. This deer was sacred to Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, and harming it would bring her wrath. Determined to complete his task without offending the goddess, Hercules set off on a long journey. The hind was incredibly fast, and he chased it across Greece for an entire year. Through forests, over mountains, and across rivers, he never gave up. One morning, just as the sun was rising, Hercules spotted the hind drinking from a clear stream. Moving as quietly as possible, he crept closer. Knowing he couldn't harm the deer, he carefully aimed his bow and shot an arrow near it, not to wound but to startle. The arrow grazed the hind's leg, causing it to stumble. Hercules quickly and gently captured the deer, soothing it with soft words. As he carried the hind back, he was suddenly confronted by Artemis herself. "Why have you taken my sacred animal?" she demanded. Hercules bowed respectfully and explained his situation. "Great goddess, I am bound to complete these tasks to atone for my sins. I mean no harm to your cherished hind and promise to return it unharmed after I have shown it to the king." Moved by his honesty and humility, Artemis allowed him to proceed, warning him to keep his promise. Hercules did as he said, and after presenting the hind to King Eurystheus, he released it back into the wild, unharmed. For his fourth task, Hercules was sent to capture the Erymanthian boar, a giant wild pig with fierce tusks that was terrorizing the people near Mount Erymanthus. The boar destroyed crops, uprooted trees, and attacked anyone who came near. Braving the cold winter weather, Hercules climbed the snowy slopes of the mountain in search of the beast. The terrain was rough, and icy winds whipped around him, but he pressed on. He found the boar rooting through a forest, its breath steaming in the cold air. Hercules let out a loud shout, startling the boar and causing it to charge at him. At the last second, he jumped aside, and the boar slid on the icy ground. Using his agility and strength, Hercules chased the boar higher up the mountain. The deep snow made it difficult for the boar to move quickly. Seizing the opportunity, Hercules cornered the beast near a steep ravine. With a swift move, he threw a net over the boar, entangling it. The boar thrashed and squealed, but Hercules held on. He bound the boar securely and carried it back to King Eurystheus. When the king saw the ferocious creature, he was so frightened that he hid inside a large bronze jar, peeking out cautiously. Hercules couldn't help but smile at the king's fear, knowing he had completed another task. The fifth labor seemed less dangerous but was incredibly challenging. Hercules was tasked with cleaning the Augean stables in a single day. King Augeas owned thousands of cattle, and the stables hadn't been cleaned in over 30 years. The accumulated filth was overwhelming. Upon arriving, Hercules was met with a stench so strong, it made his eyes water. The task seemed impossible, but he was determined. Instead of tackling it by hand, he came up with a clever plan. He approached King Augeas and said, "If I clean your stables in one day, will you give me a tenth of your cattle?" The king, thinking it impossible, agreed. Hercules then noticed that two rivers, the Alpheus and the Peneus, flowed nearby. He tore down a section of the stable walls and dug trenches to redirect the rivers. The powerful waters rushed through the stables, washing away years of filth in just a few hours. When King Augeas saw what Hercules had done, he was angry. He accused Hercules of cheating and refused to honor their agreement. Though disappointed by the king's dishonesty, Hercules had completed his labor. For his sixth task, Hercules was sent to deal with the Stymphalian birds, dangerous creatures with bronze beaks and sharp metallic feathers they could shoot like arrows. They lived near Lake Stymphalia and terrorized the nearby villages. The area was swampy and hard to navigate. The birds nested in thick trees, making them difficult to reach. Hercules tried to approach quietly, but the muddy ground made it impossible. Frustrated, he wondered how to drive the birds out into the open. Suddenly, the goddess Athena appeared and offered him a pair of bronze crotala, noise-making clappers crafted by the god Hephaestus. Standing on a hill overlooking the swamp, Hercules clashed the clappers together. The loud noise echoed through the valley, startling the birds. Frightened by the sound, they took to the sky. As they flew overhead, Hercules took aim with his bow and shot them down with his poisoned arrows. Those that weren't killed flew away, never to return. The villages were safe once again, thanks to Hercules' resourcefulness. The seventh task required Hercules to capture the Cretan bull, a magnificent creature that was causing havoc on the island of Crete. This bull had been sent by Poseidon, the god of the sea, and was the father of the dreaded Minotaur. Upon arriving in Crete, Hercules met with King Minos. The king was more than happy to have someone deal with the bull, which had become uncontrollable. Hercules tracked the bull across the island. When he finally found it, the bull snorted and pawed the ground, its eyes wild. As the bull charged, Hercules stood his ground. At the last moment, he grabbed the bull by the horns. The two wrestled fiercely. The bull was strong and fought hard, but Hercules' strength was greater. He managed to subdue the bull without hurting it. Tying it securely, he brought the bull back across the sea to King Eurystheus. When the king saw the bull, he was again filled with fear. He released the bull, which eventually wandered to the plains of Marathon, where it caused trouble until it was defeated by another hero, Theseus. For his eighth labor, Hercules was tasked with capturing the mares of Diomedes, wild horses that ate human flesh. They belonged to Diomedes, a cruel king who fed his guests to the horses. Hercules gathered a small group of companions and sailed to Thrace, where Diomedes ruled. Upon arriving, they overpowered the stable guards and led the mares toward their ship. However, Diomedes and his soldiers pursued them. A fierce battle broke out. Hercules fought bravely, and in the chaos, he defeated Diomedes. In a twist of justice, he fed the wicked king to his own horses. After consuming their master, the mares became calm and docile. Hercules then safely led the mares back to King Eurystheus. The king, not wanting the dangerous animals, dedicated them to the goddess Hera. Eventually, the mares were released and roamed the countryside, no longer posing a threat. The ninth task was to obtain the belt of Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons. The belt was a symbol of her authority, given to her by Ares, the god of war. Hercules set sail with a group of warriors to the land of the Amazons. Upon arrival, Hippolyta came to greet him, intrigued by the famous hero. Hercules explained his mission, and the queen, impressed by his honesty, agreed to give him the belt. However, Hera wasn't pleased with how smoothly things were going. Disguising herself as an Amazon warrior, she spread rumors that Hercules planned to kidnap Hippolyta. The Amazons, believing their queen was in danger, surrounded Hercules and his men. Confused by the sudden hostility, Hercules thought he had been betrayed. A battle ensued. Despite his efforts to avoid conflict, Hercules had to defend himself. He fought his way back to the ship, taking the belt with him. As they sailed away, Hercules realized that Hera had tricked them all. He was saddened by the unnecessary bloodshed but knew he had to complete his task. The 10th labor took Hercules to the edge of the known world to retrieve the cattle of Geryon, a fearsome giant with 3 bodies joined at the waist. The cattle were guarded by a 2-headed dog named Orthrus and a herdsman named Eurytion. The journey was long and filled with obstacles. Hercules crossed deserts where the heat was so intense that he shot an arrow at the sun in frustration. The sun god Helios admired his boldness and lent him a golden cup, which Hercules used to sail across the sea. Upon reaching the island of Erythea, Hercules was confronted by Orthrus. With a single swing of his club, he defeated the dog. Eurytion tried to stop him but met the same fate. Then Geryon appeared, towering over Hercules. The giant attacked with 3 spears and 3 shields. Hercules used his poisoned arrows, shooting from afar. The arrows struck Geryon, and the poison took effect, defeating the giant. Hercules herded the cattle into the golden cup and sailed back. Along the way, Hera sent various obstacles to hinder him, including sending a swarm of flies to scatter the herd. Hercules tirelessly gathered the cattle again and continued his journey. After many trials, he delivered the cattle to King Eurystheus, who sacrificed them to Hera. For the 11th labor, Hercules was to obtain golden apples from the garden of the Hesperides. These apples were precious gifts to Hera and were guarded by nymphs and a dragon named Ladon. Not knowing the garden's location, Hercules traveled far and wide, seeking information. Along the way, he encountered Prometheus, who was chained to a rock as punishment by Zeus. Each day, an eagle would come to eat his liver, which would regrow overnight. Moved by Prometheus's suffering, Hercules killed the eagle and freed him. In gratitude, Prometheus told Hercules how to find the garden and advised him to seek the help of Atlas. Hercules found Atlas, the Titan condemned to hold up the sky. He offered to relieve Atlas of his burden if he would retrieve the apples. Atlas agreed, happy for a chance to rest his weary shoulders. While Atlas went to fetch the apples, Hercules strained under the weight of the heavens. When Atlas returned with the apples, he suggested that he himself deliver them to King Eurystheus, intending to leave Hercules holding the sky forever. Realizing the trick, Hercules played along. "That would be great," he said, "but could you hold the sky again for just a moment so I can pad my shoulders?" Atlas agreed, and as soon as he took back the sky, Hercules grabbed the apples and thanked him, leaving the Titan with his eternal burden. The final and most daunting task was to capture Cerberus, the three-headed dog that guarded the entrance to the underworld. This meant Hercules had to venture into the realm of the dead, a place no living person was meant to go. Before embarking on this journey, Hercules sought guidance and purification rituals to prepare himself. He approached the entrance to the underworld with determination, facing spirits and shadows that would terrify most mortals. He found Hades, the god of the underworld, and respectfully asked for permission to take Cerberus to the surface. Hades agreed, but only if Hercules could capture the beast without using any weapons. Facing Cerberus was no small feat. The monstrous dog had 3 heads with sharp teeth, a serpent for a tail, and snakes writhing on its back. As Cerberus lunged at him, Hercules stood firm. He grabbed the creature around the necks, wrestling it with all his might. The struggle was intense. Cerberus's bites and the sting of the serpent tail tested Hercules' endurance. But with sheer strength and determination, he subdued the beast. Hercules led Cerberus to the surface, where King Eurystheus was so frightened that he begged Hercules to take the creature back. Having completed all 12 labors, Hercules returned Cerberus to the underworld, fulfilling his promise to Hades. Having completed all 12 labors, Hercules achieved what many thought was impossible. He overcame incredible challenges, faced terrifying creatures, and even ventured into the realm of the dead. Through his strength, courage, and cleverness, he found redemption and restored his honor. His deeds were celebrated throughout Greece, and his name became synonymous with heroism. In time, the gods granted Hercules immortality. He ascended to Mount Olympus, where he was reconciled with Hera and married Hebe, the goddess of youth. The story of Hercules is a timeless tale of courage, perseverance, and the quest for redemption. It reminds us that no matter how insurmountable the obstacles may seem, determination and a strong spirit can help us overcome any challenge. So, what trials will you face with the spirit of Hercules? Remember, true heroism lies not just in great deeds but in facing our own struggles and striving to be better every day.